one of the points he made that struck me was that he said if we create momentum, we will get the goals that we deserve. Did they create a lot of momentum in that game, Arsenal? We looked at how much possession they had. Did they also have momentum, do you think?
I think there was a little bit of momentum in the crowd, but in the final third, I would say no. There was question marks with Trossard starting. I thought it would have went with Eze, although he didn't do well in the Champions League in the week. And then he brings off Marino as well and brings in Saka, understandably because he's coming from a hamstring. And I was always against what Jamie used to say is Arsenal just want to play to draw the game when they're playing in the big games. But I just feel like he's got the players, he's got the squad now to go for it a little bit more. And I'm not saying that he's negative because you're coming up against Man City, who historically have been very good and they dominate possession and they don't know what game he's going to be. I think Pep's always a step ahead. Look, he's been his understudy, he's been his assistant, so he knows how Pep thinks and thinks, well, Pep might do something different today. But in terms of what Arsenal have now, they have enough to be competing with the best teams, and I still think they've got the handbrake on. If they take it off just a little bit, they'll be more exciting. That momentum that you talked about. They
won this fixture 5-1 last season.
Yeah, but that
was not a handbrake performance.
But that was Man City who weren't at the best. They was going through a difficult spell. We seen the interview with Bernardo Silva before the game, and he said the confidence was low, nothing was right at that period of time. I just think they have the players to go for it now, and if he wants to go for it, it'll give him a better chance of winning this league.
Yeah, I just think they wasted 45 minutes. I mean, Man City are a title rival right now because of what they've done in the past. But they've had a poor start to the season by their standards. I think most people in this country would say the title will be between Arsenal and Liverpool. And I couldn't see any way coming into this game with how strong I feel Arsenal. I think Arsenal are a brilliant team. For me, the best squad in the Premier League. And I thought they would not win comfortably, but I thought they just come here and win 2-0 against Manchester City today. And Mikel Arteta has got a team and a squad who are that close to being really, really special in terms of winning a Premier League and maybe even winning a Champions League. I think they're that good. But time after time, when it comes to these big games, he picks a team that feels like he's thinking more about the opposition. And that doesn't mean you can't win the league. Jose Mourinho's won the Premier League 3 times. He was a little bit like that. But as I said, for me, that was a waste for 45 minutes. And the reason I'm saying that is because I played for managers like that at Liverpool, and we were really close. We were a very top team, but we never won the Premier League. We won a Champions League, got to a Champions League final. We were a great side. But I always felt at times under Gerard Houllier and Rafa Benitez, maybe we had the handbrake on, as Mike has just said. Now when I get in certain games, I look back at situations, and that is what Mikel Arteta's doing. Liverpool, I won't change my mind, were there for the taking in that second half at Anfield. Man City were there for the taking at the start of this game, and he's allowed them to come into the game. And it's just a recurring pattern season after season. And if you're Mikel Arteta and Arsenal or an Arsenal sport, you've just got to hope that doesn't cost you at the end of the season, because they are a brilliant team. They've got a fantastic squad, but the margins are so small.
I know you can't read Mikel Arteta's mind, but just give us some insight into a sort of manager's perspective on this. When he knows that Manchester City have played on the Thursday night, that he will, as Pep Guardiola said they did, start to maybe tire, even if it's just mentally towards the end of the game, that they may be that focus that we saw at the end when Arsenal did get their goal just slips for a split second. Is there a sense that Arteta was maybe waiting to build into the game?
Yeah, well, Jamie mentioned working for managers who are very defensive-minded. The few managers I've played under, particularly at club level, I always thought were gamblers. Brian Clough and Alex Ferguson. They were gamblers. They were all about winning and not waiting and not worrying too much about the opposition. Now, people might say, well, that's because you always had the best players. No, always. Not every season at Man United, and certainly not at Forest. So I felt the managers I worked under were gamblers, and they win for it and they got the rewards. And maybe Arteta is that, maybe defensive-minded. We said last year about too many draws. Was it 14 draws he had, but 10 of them for winning positions. And then you look at some of his team selection today, and he works with the players, and he will know him better than us. But you see people like Eze, and then when he comes on, we saw for the quality of the pass. So that's where that gambling, it doesn't mean to say you take silly gambles, but just calculated gambles. If you're bringing players into your club for 50, 60, 70 million who make the difference going forward, then you're asking yourself, it's very hard to have an influence when you're sitting on the bench. I know we talk about the squad. You need your squads, of course. So that would be the impression when I'm looking at Arteta. Yeah, he is very much. I think his mindset is, let's make sure we don't get beaten today. But because of the standards of the other team, and we're talking about Liverpool and Man City over the last few years, that won't be enough. And I'll sit there and I'll praise Arsenal all day. I think they have a brilliant squad. I think they're consistent in terms of being hard to beat, brilliant at set pieces, etc. But they need more. The players must know that. The manager and the staff must know that. They know that. They must look at Liverpool. They see Liverpool yesterday going, Liverpool keep winning football matches. Liverpool aren't all of a sudden going to lose some matches. And I thought City, if we hear Pep's vibes after the match about fatigue, well, Arsenal should be having that chat going, look, if City had a tough week, it's been emotional from it on about the Napoli. So make the most of it. Like the first half started here. Again, they'd 1-2 shots on target. When you're the home team, you have to put them under pressure, where City are coming. If they are a little bit fatigued, we go after 10 or 15 minutes going, oh my God, I went for a long day. Now, Arsenal did get the rewards, but they got the rewards towards the end of the game because they are going to gamble. They are going to chase the game. The home teams are going to do that. But that's also on City, where City didn't have that counter-attack.
You were a big figure at Manchester United, the captain of the club, and you're saying the two managers you played were always on the front foot. But if you were getting managed by a manager who you felt at times was holding you back a bit, would you speak to a manager about that? Would you be sort of driving your team or question the manager? I'm
not sure. Because, again, fortunate of the club managers that I worked for, I wasn't necessarily for me to go and do that. And I was a young player, particularly with Brian Clough. But would I do that? I don't know, Jamie. It's a good point. I think sometimes if there's some good senior players at your club or at international level and you feel you can do a bit more, yeah, you would do. But I never had to do that because at club level, the managers were always, I felt, their mindset was always, even with 10 or 15 minutes to go, and depending on the situation, if you get a man sent off, you're up against it. Listen, we've all sat there and gone, listen, you take the draw. But if you know too many draws won't get you anywhere fast, particularly when Liverpool are setting such high standards, and Man City did for a number of years where Arsenal were competing with them. So they have to change that mindset, whereas, again, particularly to start the game today, let's go at them. As if they were waiting for something to happen. They've got the quality, they've got the strength and depth. What are they waiting for? Have they got that belief? I said that before the match. Do Arsenal have the belief they can go and take City on? And even Rice after the game, they're getting interviewed, and Arteta every week says he's proud of his team. I'd like for him to, he was proud at Old Trafford when they won 1-0. I'd love for him to come up one time and go, no, I expect more from my players. We're Arsenal, we've a big squad, we've spent a fortune, we're going places. Instead of every week going, I'm proud of this and I'm proud of that. No, you kind of get proud of your team when you're winning trophies, and that's the next step for them. But it's the hardest step. But when they're looking at Liverpool and seeing what Liverpool, for example, we're up at Newcastle. You're trying to compare a manager's situation. Liverpool were 2-0 up. And they threw it away. They ended up 2-2 against 10 men. You're going, are Liverpool going to hang in for a point? The manager wasn't hanging in for a point. He's throwing on young kids going, no, we're going to win a game of football. So Arsenal have to look at that and go, do we be proud and say we're proud to get a draw against the Man City team who aren't at their very best? He has to be a bit more critical and say, we need that extra bit if they're going to win the league title. Or come the end of the season, we'll be sitting there going, Arsenal have a decent season. Yeah, they were second, but they've been second, the last 2 or 3 years?
Arsenal can't afford for that to stop them. As I said, the squad is fantastic. They've got some of the best players in the league, some of the best players in Europe. When you look at sort of the players on the pitch, they're so close, and they can't afford situations like that to come back and haunt them as it has done year after year.